Good morning, team. Let the adventure begin. It's the mug for today. What a week, I wanted to come on for just a few minutes before I head out for the day and just say, if you're having a crappy week or month, don't stress about it. It's kind of just what's in the air. And I'm going to talk about it for just a minute because it's just, even for me, I haven't had anything going wrong per se. In fact, a lot of amazing things have actually happened. Like getting a big check in the mail and loving my new job and all of these things. But I've been feeling just disheartened. And so that tells me that there's something bigger going on. And, I'm one of these people that believes everything is right. And that doesn't make me more spiritual than anyone to say everything is right. It's a personal theory of mine that I just think you can be right or you can feel good. And when you position yourself on being right, you can get really self-righteous about any topic and start to sort of defend against others. So for me, the more I focus on everything being right and having a piece of truth, if something comes up that I disagree with, I like to really focus on it and understand who it is and where it comes from, because I feel like it creates mutual understanding in me. And I don't get too positioned on anything. It's really easy to hear people and think they have powerful opinions. For me, I really don't. I'm sharing about what I think in the moment. I might be really impassioned about it, but I'm also a putz, and that's why I say that I always reserve the right to change my mind and expand what I think. So anyway, right now, for thousands of years, has been considered to be a time of darkness from the fall equinox to the winter equinox. And especially above the equator, right? In pagan traditions, or even you could even say in some of the more mainstream, right now is when the darkness rules the world. And for those of us, the farther you go above the equator, the more darkness rules at this time. And I think it's really helpful to think about these sort of ancient cycles. And, we look at a lot of Alan Watts on here. He talks a lot about Taoism and being in tune with nature. Nature holds a certain amount of power for us. And so do the cycles. There's natural cycles occurring. And if you live somewhere that's always warm, it's harder to tune into it. But, in places with seasons, like fall hits and everything dies. Everything green goes away. I used to mourn my garden when I was out at the ranch. It's this beautiful, lush garden, and then a freeze comes and everything dies. And people used to be living off of that. So it was like their food supply was then gone. It was obviously a much bigger deal. And then the days get shorter and shorter, and it gets darker and darker, and you just feel it. And then astrologically, which was a huge thing, is actually, astronomy and astrology are both intense sciences. They're just a little bit different, right? What is sort of looking at the stars as a teaching mechanism or a guiding mechanism. One is actually what are the stars and planets doing. And they don't seem to get along too well either. But both have a lot of really interesting things to teach. And I've been deep diving on it more as I've really felt this energy around this time of year. And of course, what we create becomes reality, or what we believe in. So I'm probably making it worse for myself by focusing on it, right? But right now, astrologically, in the stars in the sky, you've got Scorpio reigning, and that's a giant scorpion. And in his constellation, every big constellation has 3 deacons. I'm not going to sound super intelligent about this, but I'm studying more and more so I can sound more and more versed on it to speak on it. But in his 3 smaller constellations that are his friends, there's a serpent, there's a guy wrestling a serpent that's about to come into a sky. Right? So this was the time of darkness. This was the time when the scorpion or serpent was ruling the sky. And it wasn't until late November that this other constellation shows up that's kind of wrestling the serpent and stepping on it. And then the savior is born in December, when the Virgin returns to the sky, Virgo, and one of her deacons is a child in a manger. Sometimes it's sitting in her lap, depending on what you look at. But the Savior is kind of reborn, and light returns to the world. Well, that's what's happening with nature too, right? Once the winter solstice starts, our days start getting longer, and within a few months, green just starts popping out, and warmth and welcome. So there's something to it. And I feel it. Scorpio season is always intense, but we have to remember it's also a time of transformation, right? Breakdown to breakthrough. We don't really shift until the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain of change. And so we really have to get focused and remember that this too shall pass, and not let it overwhelm us. And remember, it's just a phase. This is a cycle. It's just like winter for us, so that we can make the asking, especially if we're going with Abraham's thought process, right? Contrast breeds asking, it breeds desire, it helps us focus in on what we want. And so we get to focus in now on what we really want. What do we want for the holiday season? What do we want for next year? And it's a time of birthing different ideas, and maybe we're in the pain and contrast, but that's going to shift. We're going to take that bounce. And so for me, I was feeling really disheartened yesterday. And the last few weeks, like I said, even though good things were happening. So I just want you to know you're not alone. A lot of the people I know have just had a really tough time of it. Things with health, things with finances, things with relationships, people acting really strange. So it's important to stay grounded right now and stay connected. Cut yourself some slack. Cut your people in your life some slack. And then what do you want to do next? So yesterday, even though I was feeling disheartened, somehow I got my application in for my master's program. I got everything submitted yesterday in the middle of it. I wrote my letter of intent. I got my resume updated with my new job. I got that in. I updated LinkedIn, Indeed. I did all of those things and still set my intention and focus of this is what I want to do. And I'm still going to create this opportunity and plant this seed now. Even if I'm feeling this way, I'm looking to what's going to lift me up next. And I have to have a conversation with my new boss today. I have a couple new employees starting. Some things have happened. It was really weighing on my mind too. And I have to remember that he's in process too. We're all in process. And I have to be willing to create the growth in the people around me by asking from them too. But really key here, before I go, is something that I actually read Emmett Fox saying last night at 2 a.m. I couldn't sleep. And it says, let God. And this is really going to be my strategy for today. And you can replace God with whatever works for you. If it's spirit, angels, universe. And it says, people often say, I try to do so-and-so, but I fail. The explanation for their failure is contained within the words themselves. You should never try. You should let. Let God. When you try to do things, you're working from the outside. When you let God do them through you, you are working from the inside, and success must come. And I feel like Abraham says this all the time. Plug in your vacuum. Get connected. Meditate. Listen to something that puts you in a good space. And then see what happens rather than trying to force things. And this is really going to be my strategy with my boss and team today. And just being I'm just going to let something beautiful happen because I'm the space for it. And wait for the right timing. Wait for the doors to open. If you will reread the creation chapter in the Bible, you will notice that God creates by letting. God said let at every act of creation, and it was done. Now God creates by means of you, if you will let him, but you must let. Remember, God or the creative power is never going to override our own personal will. It always gives us the power to choose and to do. And so, you have to let God in order to let that power flow through you. Your will is supreme. Someone said, let go and let God. And this is a wonderful recipe for overcoming fear or getting out of a tight place. In any case, the rule for creation is always let. Is anything too hard for the Lord? It quotes Genesis 18:14. And so that's what I want to say. This is a difficult time, and it's a time to not try to force things, not try to but just say, I'm going to let God work through me. I'm going to step back from my life for a minute if it's feeling too painful or too difficult. And I'm just going to focus on how I feel and see what happens around me. So blessings. Have a great day. That's it.